Well, hey there, it's Catherine from CatherinePooler.com. It is really easy to create vibrant, gorgeous watercolor backgrounds like you see here. You are going to need some ink refills, some kind of color palette. You may want to use an acrylic block or anything else that's slick, a water bottle, and a paintbrush. And I also have here the Media Mat by Waffle Flower. It definitely comes in handy. And then watercolor paper. For this video, I'm using Ken Oliver watercolor paper. I really like this paper because it's very bright white. It is smooth-ish on one side. It's not smooth like regular stamping paper, but it has a very nice smooth finish on one side. And on the other side, it's very textured. It has a very rich, lush watercolor paper feel. When creating backgrounds with ink refills, you're going to get a very saturated, very vibrant, deep, rich color. And there are several ways that you can achieve this look. So I encourage you to play and experiment and see what kind of varying results you get depending on exactly what you do. But first, on this one, I just added some ink refill directly to my block, and then I'm spraying down my watercolor cardstock. So this is a wet on wet technique. And I'm starting down in the bottom there, and you can see how rich and vibrant that color is. This color is Suede Shoes. It is one of our party colors, so it's a very highly saturated color. And then I wanted my ink refill to be a little bit more watered down, so I just added a little bit of water to my color palette on my block. And then I'm just adding color, and I'm just brushing it across my watercolor cardstock, and I'm just going back and forth. Here I am achieving an ombre look because I'm starting out dark at the bottom every single time, and then as the color works out of that brush, I'm going up toward the lighter color at the top. And at the very top, I have the lightest color, and I'm going over that section less often so that it will stay light. You can keep going in as many times as you want to darken up the color, and if you want to lighten it, you can add more water. So this whole process took me less than 2 minutes, and I'm just going to set it aside to dry, and let's do another one. So here we're going to use Deck the Halls. This is a dye water-based ink, so it works with water and watercolor techniques like a dream. So again, I'm just wetting my cardstock, and I'm spreading that water, painting that water all over my watercolor cardstock. I want to get it nice and wet. And then when you add that color, it's so satisfying. I just love watching the water wick. And if you add more water, which we'll do on subsequent backgrounds, you'll see it wick even more. I encourage you to play and experiment and get inky with this technique. It's a really great creative outlet. And on this particular piece, you can see I used the more textured side, and you definitely get a different look as compared to the smoother side. Next up, we're going to try Be Mine. I am a big fan of non-traditional holiday colors, but you know, I'm not going to dismiss my traditional colors either. I love both, but every single season I love to create pink snowflake holiday cards. So anyone have a guess as to how this card is going to turn out? So you can see that wicking that I'm getting, and I'm just going to go back and forth a couple times, adding some more color, darkening up that bottom, really getting a nice ombre effect. On this background, I had more water than my first two, and you can see it kind of pooling up in the center there. And again, this is how you want it to look. So you can use less water, you can dab it up with a paper towel, you can play with it, spread it around. You can let it pool up in different areas and get different markings. You can heat set in between and add more. There's so much fun to be had with just water and ink. Next up, we're going to try our new Cranberry Fizz. This is a really deep red color, and you're going to see how vibrant this is in a second. So I'm just I don't need to say anything here. that red is stunning. And when it fades out into a lighter color, it's a light red. It's a gorgeous light red. So I'm going to add more color at the bottom. I'm just going to keep playing. And I love the result that I got here. And then when you're done, you've got this palette of color. So you can wash it up. I just take this straight to the sink and wash everything in the sink. You can add some more water here and another piece of watercolor cardstock and get some more technique pieces. So here you see the dripping down from the top, and you can heat it. Like I said before, this is called smushing, and I'm sure you've seen me do this before, but we won't go further than this here today, but lots of videos out there showing you more techniques with pieces like this. So here are the resulting watercolor backgrounds. I am excited to create cards out of these pieces. This blue one, I accidentally laid a wet paper towel on top of it, and so you can see how it reacted again with the water, and there are some water spots on that. I'm going to use that to my benefit in a little bit. So, pink snowflake card. I used the Snowflake trio dies, and I just created a whole background here with those snowflakes. I started with my greeting. That greeting actually was done with Wanderlust embossing glitter, so it's glittery. I added that first, and then I started with the snowflake in the bottom right hand corner, and then I just built around that, spacing out my snowflakes. And then once you get once you get most of the card covered, you can take little pieces of other snowflakes and fit them in and around the edges to balance out the design. I take my 2 large acrylic blocks and I like to lay them on top of technique and cards that I'm working on so that the pieces lay flat and they dry nicely. And then a little bit of Nuvo glitter drops in the center of all of the snowflakes to finish it off. And there's my pink snowflake card for the season. I don't know, it's pretty early in the season, so I bet there will be more to follow. Next, I'm going to create a card using that Deck the Halls background. I cut about 3/4 of an inch off of the side because I had that watermark on the edge, and for this particular card, I wanted it to be a nice, smooth ombre look. I thought our Joy wreath would be a gorgeous accent over this fabulous background. So I die cut it, and then I used the Deck the Halls ink pad direct to paper over the top to create a Deck the Halls colored wreath. And then I dabbed that wreath onto my Wow embossing pad, and then I was able to sprinkle over the Deck the Halls embossing glitter. Now I could have skipped the step of doing the direct to paper with the ink pad, but this going direct to paper, creating the colored cardstock, and then doing the colored glitter over the top is going to give me a very deep, rich, vibrant look on this wreath, and I think it's going to be gorgeous. Now I'm a messy stamper and I don't really clean up as I go, but as I was heating my wreath, I got nervous having that pile of glitter sitting next to me. So I poured that right back into the pot, and I think that was probably a pretty good idea. I also want a piece of Deck the Halls glitter. You know, basically you're creating glitter paper here. So Deck the Halls direct to paper, you can see how our ink pads, they're made of foam. They transfer ink so beautifully to cardstock. Just a quick swipe across your cardstock and you have Deck the Halls cardstock. Then dab it onto your embossing pad, add your glitter, heat it, and now I have a deep, rich, beautiful piece of Deck the Halls glitter paper. And it looks gorgeous on this card. The Joy, I used Oyster Glintz embossing powder, and it just has a really nice subtle sheen on there. So there is the second card. Now let's take the Suede Shoes ombre piece that has the little water splotches on it. Let's take that to our advantage and add some more. So I'm just using my distress sprayer and spraying a bunch of water droplets all over that paper. When you let it sit, it will react with the ink, and it kind of gives a bleached out effect. You can take a clean paper towel and dab up the water, or you can just let it sit and work its magic. So to finish this card off, I'm using my Winterhaven Dies. I die cut some snowy hills, and I want to add some glitter to them. So I'm using a two-way glue pen. I'm just pushing the tip down into the barrel on scratch paper to make sure that glue is in the tip, and then I'm going to take it and run it along the snowy hill, and then I'm going to add some glitter. So this is Wow glitter, and the way you know the difference between embossing powder or embossing glitter is that the jars of glitter is that the glitter says sparkles, and it also has a nice heart on there. So all the glitters do not need to be heat set. So you're just going to apply the two-way glue, pour the glitter over the top, shake it off, give a little flick to remove any excess glitter, and now I have some glittery snowy hills. I have Happy Holidays stamped on the bottom, and then I'm just going to add these adorable little houses from my Winterhaven Dies. And then it gives a really nice wintry sky look in the background there. And it's a pretty clean and simple card with a fun technique. Now here's a look at the card that inspired this entire video. This card was made by Elena Kraus. It's absolutely stunning and really shows off that Cranberry Fizz color. All she did was emboss the Fa La 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 tree from the Caroling Sentiment stamp set on top of it, added it to a card base, and that's it. And then also from the Caroling Sentiment stamp set is the Dreaming of a White Christmas snowman, and that has another ink blended background on a simple card. I hope you are inspired to create some ink blended backgrounds with lots of water, watercolor paper, and ink refills. I hope you'll check out my YouTube channel for other inspiration. If you love watercolor techniques, I have tons of videos on the channel with more ideas. Thanks for being here. I hope you have an awesome day, and I'll see you again soon.